July 19th marks the start of G1 Climax 35, and I made a video previously where I said I wasn't too excited about the lineup. Seemed a little bit too samey from last year, but even taking out some of the best elements of last year's G1. I'm about halfway through the first night right now, and I've actually been enjoying it. There hasn't really been anything great so far. I just watched David Finlay versus Ryohei Oiwa, and that was pretty good. Bolton Oleg versus Yuyu Uemura was really good. I really like that match. I wouldn't say it was great, but I did really like it. So I thought I would take some time to make a predictions video about where I thought each person would go in this tournament. Specifically, I'm going to talk about who I think the winners will be, who I think has the best shot of being the winner, and who I think will make it to the finals of each block. I'm going to be separating some people into categories just to see how well I think they could do and what the possibility is that they could actually win the 2025 G1 Climax. If you guys like the video, please leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, as it really does help a new channel like mine to grow. Maybe in the comments, discuss what you think of the G1 so far this year, what you think of the lineup, what you thought of night one, and what you think of the predictions in this video. But with all that being said, I am Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and let's go ahead and start the video by talking about those wrestlers who definitely 100% will not be winning the tournament. So this first category of competitors, I'm calling people with no shot. And this is not a list of the worst wrestlers in this tournament. It's not indicative of what I think of them as performers, because some of my favorite competitors in the tournament are actually in this part of the list. Rather, this is people who don't really have a good shot at winning the tournament. And that doesn't mean they won't perform well and get a lot of points, but it just means they don't really have a shot from a booking standpoint of actually securing the win at the end. So we're starting with Evil. Evil, I think, has a chance to go very, very far in this tournament, even potentially making it to the semifinals towards the end. But he is very much a guy who is there to inspire anxiety in the crowd base, to say, not Evil, do not push him to the end, don't make him win. It's sort of supposed to be nerve-wracking, like, oh my God, one of our favorites could be knocked out by Evil, because he's just not very good in the House of Torture role. A lot of people like him. He doesn't have very good matches. So New Japan, honestly, a little bit smartly, pushes him a lot to really ratchet up the anxiety of how far he's going to go in the tournament. So he is a good tool to use for that reason, but he's not winning. Next is Callum Newman. I really like Callum Newman. He's really starting to come out to me in this year in 2025. He's had a lot of really good performances against Goto and in the tag division, but he is not winning this tournament. There's no real chance. He had his championship match against Goto, but other than that, he's been doing tag stuff, and he hasn't really been pushed prominently in the singles scene. And I think he's still a little bit in his infancy in New Japan, where if he was to be taken as a serious top competitor, like Finlay or Gabe Kidd or Zack Sabre Jr. I'm trying to think of people who aren't from Japan. He needs to put a few more years in for management and the crowd to accept him. So not his year. Also not their year. Yoshihashi. He's in it as sort of a replacement for Goto. And yeah, he's just not gonna go very far. Yoshihashi never really had a time when he could be a top competitor, because when he was sort of newer to New Japan in like 2015 to 2020, he wasn't really taken seriously. He was sort of taken as a joke. And then after 2020, he sort of put himself in this veteran role, and he's a little bit past his prime. And it's just really him as a main event wrestler is not going to happen. So no to Yoshihashi. Also no to Drilla Maloney, someone who recently moved up from the junior heavyweight to the heavyweight division. Really been impressive in some of his outings. I really like Drilla Maloney. He's got a great look, a great physique, really good moveset, holds himself well. I think Drilla Maloney could be a big player in the singles division in years to come. But having just moved into the heavyweight division, This is not his year. They're obviously keen on pushing him. He beat Takagi. He beat Tomohiro Ishii. He's going to pick up some big wins in this tournament, but he's probably going to be right around that like 50% win rate in this tournament. He'll do well, but he's not winning. Also not winning, Boltin Oleg. Boltin Oleg, someone they've been pushing recently. They made him never open weight champion, but he is sort of not at the point where he can be taken as a top contender in New Japan. He just doesn't have enough experience, and outside of Konosuke Takeshita, doesn't really have the work rate. Konosuke Takeshita matches, that is, doesn't really have the work rate to be considered a top contender. He's really, really fun in the mid card, and that is where his place is for right now. So this year is not his year, nor is it El Phantasmo's year. And I love El Phantasmo. When he won the TV title at Wrestle Kingdom, one of my favorite moments of the year. But he is an eternal mid-carder in New Japan and will probably stay that way for his tenure in the company. And he doesn't really have a shot to move up the card any more than he has in G1s of the past. I would be surprised if he has a winning percentile in this G1. Next is Sonata. Sonata's really severely dropped down the card in the last few years. I think he went into maybe the 2023 one as the champ, or maybe I think it was 2023. He went in as the champ. 2024, he was sort of back to a mid card role, but still being taken seriously. And now, after leaving Just Five Guys, joining the War Dogs, then leaving them to join House of Torture, he is a lower card comedy act at this point. So his rise to the top will not happen again this year. Sorry, Sonata. Red Narita, another name that is not going to really make any waves in this tournament. He is a lackey of the House of Torture, not someone who gets a lot of focus in that stable. He hasn't really done anything of prominence in the singles division this year, and just a lot of attention hasn't really been given focus to Narita as a solo act. The feud between the War Dogs and the House of Torture has taken up a lot of the year, and he's just sort of been a contender in that, falling behind Evil in the spotlight. So he is there just to get some heel heat, and because they really pushed him as one of the Three Musketeers, so he sort of has to be there, but he's not winning. And last person in the no shot section of our list is Taichi, someone who originally wasn't scheduled to be in the G1 and was put in there because of injury. Who got injured so Taichi was in there? Was he Goto's replacement? I think he might have been Goto's replacement, actually, not Yoshihashi. But Taichi just sort of thrown in there. A good person to have in there, solid hand. He can have some really, really good matches. But he's not winning the tournament. He's not really presented as a guy who can raise up in the singles ranks because he's a little bit older. He's been wrestling for a while, not in New Japan, so he doesn't really have that audience connection like Goto had. So his main event future is not great. So those list of 9 competitors have, in my mind, absolutely no shot of winning the G1 Climax. The next section of the list we're going to take a look at are 6 competitors who I feel have a very, very outside chance of winning. The outside bets, I'm calling them. Those people who I could make an argument in my head for them winning the tournament. I don't think it's likely, but story-wise and just from a way they have been booked over the course of the year, I can see reasons why they would be pushed into the top position, even though I don't think it's very likely. For the first outside bet, we're talking about the Great Okan, someone who I really went back and forth in putting them between no shot and outside bet, because I don't really know what management thinks of Great Okan. He's not great in ring. He is passable, and when put with the right opponent, can have a great match. But generally, he's got the crowd behind him a lot more in 2025, but can't really have those incredible matches. But he beat Phantasmo for the championship this year, the TV title. He was a tag champion this year, and he's just getting a lot of good reactions. I think the fan reactions are why I put him in this list more than anything. And maybe, management will want to pull a shock. They won't. They won't. They historically never pull shocks in the G1 Climax. So that's why he is an outside bet. Alongside him is Shingo Takagi. Shingo is someone who is in the position where he's not consistently in the main event of New Japan shows. He's not a top title contender throughout the year. He's someone who fights for the mid card titles and is doing jobs to elevate people of the future, and then occasionally jumping up to the main event scene when they need someone to go in there and have a great match. So the only reason I put him an outside bet is because I feel like they could sort of push him as he's someone who's been in the industry for a long time. He was our top champion just a few years ago, and now he is sort of pushing himself as I'm not going to be the guy who's just going to lay down for the young guys to build themselves off of. I'm not a platform or a stepping stone. I am the top champion. And he certainly has the in-ring talent and the connection with the crowd to be able to do that. Whether this pick gets more or less steam over the course of the tournament will really depend on what kind of stories they tell with him throughout. I really can't see it happening, but he is always presented very strongly. When he wins convincingly, and when he loses, he really, really looks good in defeat. So he's just someone who you always have to keep in your mind of doing well in the G1, doing well in New Japan Cup, potentially winning a title. He's always sort of right at the precipice of getting to the main event scene. So he's an outside bet for that reason. Also an outside bet, Yuya Uemura, someone who is very, very young in New Japan, in their tenure in New Japan. But someone who they clearly have intention of pushing. He always gets stars receptions wherever he goes. He's put into big match spots. A lot of the booking in his matches is clearly meant to favor him and to make him look really good, both in terms of his placement on cards, where he is situated, who he's put up against, the layout of the matches. They clearly want to make Yuya look very good, and he backs it up. He is a fantastic wrestler. I don't think it is quite his time yet, though. I think Yuya Uemura will win a G1 Climax eventually, but I think he's got to put in another couple years in New Japan before he's able to do that. So I don't think this is his year. Similarly to that, Ryohei Oiwa, come back from excursion last year. I don't think he was in the G1 last year. This is his first G1, and he is a guy who is presented as one of the young crop of talent who will eventually take over New Japan. But similarly to Yuya Uemura, I don't think his time is yet. And also, I don't really see as much investment in Ryohei Oiwa as I do in someone like Yuya Uemura. So he is pushed prominently because he is in a stable. He's in TMDK with Zack Sabre Jr. and Kosei Fujita. So they're always very protected and pushed. But I think that his future in the company, I'm less sure that he'll win a G1 than I am Yuya Uemura, but the possibility exists there. And if New Japan were to really rocket strap someone and push them to the moon in a way that was really unexpected, like really create a main event star, I think doing that for Ryohei Oiwa, not a bad decision because he's a fantastic wrestler, and he seems really devoted to his craft. But they just don't normally do that in this kind of way. So I don't know if I can really see that happening. Next is Konosuke Takeshita. All the talent in the world. He could, if he were to go to New Japan solely, he would be their top guy tomorrow, no problem. But the reason I put him in an outside bet is because he has the split duties between New Japan, DDT, and AEW, and I don't necessarily know if New Japan would be willing to push their top tournament, their sort of breeding ground for the best wrestler of the year, the person who's going to get the most focus, to someone who is splitting their time between three companies. So he definitely has the talent to be a G1 Climax winner. He'll have fantastic matches. I just can't see them giving him the spot. But he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Everyone loves him. He seems to be here to stay in New Japan. Whatever capacity that's in is unsure, but if he were full time, he would be higher on this list, but right now he's just in an outside bet. And finishing up our outside bets is Hiroshi Tanahashi. His final G1, more of a farewell tour than anything else, in my opinion. But who knows? They could always pull off a shock and have him go really, really deep into this tournament, maybe even win. It would be an interesting story if he won this tournament and then went on to have a title match with Zack Sabre Jr. I don't think they're going to do that because they take the G1 a little bit more seriously than that, than, something to. Hiroshi Tanahashi's role in this G1 is similar from like 2017 when Yuji Nagata was in it, where this is a celebration of this wrestler, putting them against old foes of their past, new people who they haven't wrestled before, and just giving fans a lot of opportunity to see them wrestle rather than them being pushed into an actual position of prominence. So I don't think it's likely that he will win, but the story is there if they want to do it. Next, we are going to look at the contenders, the people who I feel have a very, very good shot at winning this tournament. They are not going to be my top picks for who I think are going to win, but against the entirety of the other field, the booking is behind them a lot more to really push them to the top. And we're starting with Shota Umino, someone who has been getting a decent push over the course of this year, being put into prominent singles positions, even though he hasn't won as much as you would assume he would at the beginning of the year. It's clear that New Japan's trying to tell a story of him faltering at Wrestle Kingdom against Zack Sabre Jr. and then taking a little bit of time to find his footing on his singles journey. I don't know. Maybe the story will continue. Maybe he will fail in the G1 Climax again. And this is a very long-term story of Shota rising to the top of New Japan, failing at his first outing, and then building stuff over time. But I feel like the possibility also exists that this is his time to win the G1 Climax and then get another shot at next year's Wrestle Kingdom, where maybe he even wrestles Zack Sabre Jr. again and this time beats him. And it's sort of a 2-year story akin to, Cody versus Roman, where he's finally able to get the job done. I feel like the story is there and the story makes sense for Shota to win. Also in the contenders position, Gabe Kidd. I think that this pull is here just because he's been booked so strongly over the course of this year. Put in a major big time match at Wrestle Dynasty, I think it was, not Wrestle Kingdom, against Kenny Omega. Booked in a strong feud against Tomohiro Ishii, beat Yota Tsuji for the international championship, is now sort of the number 2 champion in the company. He's been getting a lot of notoriety this year and really, really been pushed. And I could see them really putting the rockets to him and pushing him all the way to the top by having him win the G1 Climax. I don't think that is an absurd idea to have Gabe Kidd win. I think he has proved his loyalty and his love to the craft of New Japan. And putting him to the top, he is a believable winner where fans are behind him. He's getting a lot of mainstream attention. He is a great, great wrestler. And though I feel he's not as much of a lock as other people, if Gabe Kidd won, I wouldn't be shocked. And if someone said, I think Gabe Kidd's going to win, I wouldn't be rolling my eyes just thinking this person is a Gabe Kidd mark, sort of like I am. I think that booking-wise, the way he has been presented over the course of this year, he will be a top contender in the G1 Climax. He will score a lot of points, if not win the tournament in its totality. And last person for the contenders, the current heavyweight champion, Zack Sabre Jr. I did a little bit of research before this. The only 2 people to win the G1 Climax tournament while being the top champion: 1995, Keiji Muto, and 2000, Kensuke Sasaki. Now, they don't do it often for a good reason, because you are building to a title match. So if you have the champion win, that build is a little bit funkier. But I think if you are going to be presenting Zack Sabre Jr. as the guy, the top guy in New Japan, having him win G1 Climax back to back and being the first person in 25 years to win the tournament as the champion will really solidify him as the top brass in New Japan. Right now, he is a top guy, but I don't know if you could call him the top guy. Goto you could put up there. You could maybe put some other people we're going to talk about in this video a little bit later. There are some people nipping at his heels like Shingo and Gabe Kidd. It doesn't feel like there's as clear a, like a Kazuchika Okada right at the top for a long time, or a Tanahashi who was at the top for a long time. It doesn't feel like they really have that clear defined, this is the guy. And by having Zack Sabre Jr. win the tournament back to back, I think you could establish him as that guy. The final two people we're going to be talking about, I am calling top contenders, where really I think these are the two guys who have a real shot at winning the tournament. The two people who it's sort of a flip of the coin in my mind who wins. The first person we're going to be talking about is David Finlay. To start out, a little bit of a statistic, no one has won the New Japan Cup and the G1 Climax in the same year. So if you are going to now be pushing David Finlay from your mid-card champion at the beginning of the year to a top heavyweight contender, that is an interesting way to do it. And he has been presented as a main event threat throughout this year. I think having him win the G1 would really immediately elevate him in the eyes of a lot of fans. And it's clear New Japan really wants to get behind David Finlay. He's leading a faction. He is winning titles. He is in the main event scene. He won the New Japan Cup. I feel like pushing him through is a logical decision on their parts because they are building him as one of their top stars, and this is just sort of the feather in the cap for him to officially ordain himself in the main event singles division. So I think David Finlay has a real chance, and it's only a coin toss between him and my other potential winner, Yota Tsuji. I am sort of a Yota Tsuji stan, so this might be a little bit biased, but I think he is on a pretty natural progression in his winning cycle, where he started the year by winning the international championship, which is sort of their mid card title, and then recently dropped it to Gabe Kidd. So now going in the tournament, he could win a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. It's sort of similar to, let's say in WWE, someone wins the IC championship, loses it, and then immediately goes into a world title program where the IC is sort of like a proving ground, a stepping stone almost. I feel like the international championship is similar to that. So I feel like Yota Tsuji really is on the trajectory to jump into the main event. And last year he was in the finals losing to Zack Sabre Jr. This could very well be his year to win it. So I think David Finlay and Yota Tsuji are, in my mind, the top two contenders for this tournament, the two people most likely to take everything and win everything. Now, I'm not going to leave you on that. I'm not going to say, it could be either one of those guys. I have picked who I think is going to win. And I've even picked who I thought is going to get to the end of each block. So the way the block system works is you have the top three contenders in each block. Number 2 and 3 have a singles match. Whoever wins that goes on to face the number 1 contender in each block in the semifinals of the tournament. Then the winner of each block goes to face each other in the finals. So here's how I think it is going to go. In A block, I think that Evil is going to be number 2 and Yota Tsuji is going to be number 3. And I think it's something like I said earlier where they just want to build the anxiety of how far can Evil go in this tournament. Maybe it's opposite. Maybe Evil's 3 and Yota's 2. I'm not sure if that matters really. But I think Yota gets the win there, and in the block finals go on to face David Finlay, where we have those two contenders who I was just talking about, the two most likely people to win the tournament facing in the finals of the A block. I'd give it to Yota Tsuji. I think he's going to the finals. For B block, I think 2 and 3 are going to be Gabe Kidd and Shota Umino. I do think Shota would pick up the win there. And go on to face Zack Sabre Jr. in the finals. And I think this could sort of be a little callback to Wrestle Kingdom this year. And it gives us the ability to say, can Shota get it done? If he beats Zack Sabre Jr. in this match, then yeah, he has the potential to win the entire G1. But If not, he's sort of still in the same position he was at the beginning of this year, not really being able to get it done when it comes to the big one. I am going to have Zack Sabre Jr. win because I feel like it's a more interesting story for Shota Umino if he fails here again and has to continue building himself over the course of this year into next year. I just feel like that's a little bit more interesting, and the crowd will be getting more behind him as a result of that, as sort of this longer build to Shota being a main event star versus the very rush push that we got at the beginning of this year. So I feel like Yota will be the winner of A block. Zack Sabre Jr. will be the winner of B block. We'll have a rematch from the finals of last year in the finals of this year. And this year, I think we're going to get the opposite result. I think Yota Tsuji is going to beat Zack Sabre Jr. in the finals and then go on to Wrestle Kingdom, where maybe they'll have a rematch. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not planning that far ahead. I just think Yota will beat Zack in the finals. And not only will he win the G1 Climax, he will also pin the World Heavyweight Champion to do so. And those are my thoughts on who will perform well in the G1 2025 this year. Yota Tsuji is my winner. I want to know who your winner is down in the comments below. And while you're down there, please like, please subscribe, please turn on notifications, all that stuff, as it really, really, really does help a new channel like mine to grow. I want to know what you guys think about the G1 Climax this year. Do you think it's going to be as good or better than the one last year? Who is your winner? Who are your top contenders? Let me know down below. I want to thank you guys very, very much for watching and continuing to support the channel as you always do. I have been Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling. Once again, thank you so, so much for watching, and I will see you next time.